Hello, welcome to One Handshake's second official workshop. I am delighted to have all of you here and thrilled that it's Ryan who's joining us tonight and this one, the Ryan Millar. If you don't know him, now you do. So I'm really excited about this, and yeah, we're going to talk tonight about how to introduce ourselves or pitch ourselves. And why I'm so excited about this is two reasons quickly. Number one, because I know for many of us who are either navigating a career transition or doing multiple things, that it can be tricky to know how to introduce ourselves or what to say. And even if we're not, even if we've had the same job for 25 years, or the same business for 25 years, it can also be challenging with how to introduce ourselves because we fall into the rut of saying the same thing or have no energy behind it or this, that, or the other thing. So Ryan is a specialist at this. And it's also at a pitch workshop, which was the first time I got to meet him in person, which is really great. So we met and then I followed him on LinkedIn and then he did a workshop and I went to it and it was like, you know, my brother from another mother kind of thing. We had a Prel moment, and yeah, he's really exceptional at what he does. So this is a really incredible opportunity for us being here tonight, myself included. So without any further ado, I'm gonna kick it over to Ryan.
Thank you so much, Jillian, for that. Not only a very, very warm and thoughtful and appreciative introduction, but also set a high bar for me. So set a high bar for me. So I will hope that you know what? Instead of talking about
Yeah,
it,
you
let's
mean
just get
business.
into it. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. So here's what we're gonna do. So I've been working on this presentation and getting it ready. And the reason I'm excited is because sometimes I present to big groups and sometimes I present to small groups. And in this case, we're a very small group, even if another couple people join us, which means there's lots of space for work. So it's not going to be, even though I do have a lot of slides to get through in a short amount of time, I don't want this to be just a one-way broadcast. So there's going to be lots of time for us to work together, and it's pipe up, interrupt, hand up, thoughts in the chat. And speaking of thoughts in the chat, let's get right to it. I want us to get this chat heated up because I do love referring to a chat, and this is what I would like to see. I was gonna say hear, but you don't hear in the chat. So, if everyone, could just kind of, because I'd like to get a sense of, what I think, Jillian touched on it, but, like, what specifically are people here for? Some of you might just be here because, One Handshake is a wonderful organization. Jillian is a wonderful person. You're happy to be part of it, but maybe there's more to it than that, and then this way we can keep this chat consistently building and full of richness. And I imagine that I'm talking to people who all know each other, but I realize that Jillian has actually introduced all of us to each other. So this will be a really good opportunity for us to get to know each other. And I'm just talking now to fill time while you're typing in the chat. Ha! Here we go. I knew it all. It all comes at once. So Dave says practical handles for a crispy, clear pitch. I love those adjectives. Crispy, clear. What I'm hoping to get out of this session. It says Haley is a clear way to communicate what I do, so people instantly get it without over explaining. Ah, yes, great, Haley.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jillian. Yeah, I had this idea of like wearing multiple hats, and how do we
sure.
introduce ourselves when we wear so many hats? This is great. That's the talk. Um, there's three of us. Yeah, that's good. And Inika, I work as a podcast manager for businesses at different stages. I'd like to work on the language. Yeah, okay. I think that sort of resonates. This idea of having different streams or different things that we want to talk about totally makes sense. This is what we're going to cover in our time together. Is we're going to learn. I mean, I don't need to necessarily, we don't need to Do you know the British expression "teach your grandmother to suck eggs"? Have you heard that? Is that an expression people use? Sort of hit me sideways the first time I heard it. I lived in London for a few years, but
Ooh.
to teach one's grandma to suck eggs means to explain to someone something they already know. Um, and what so, like, someone who later find out is, like, a medium distance runner, and you've just been telling them all about, like, running shoes and which are, better, and then, why you wear, like, these ones, and then you find out later on that, they, like, have an Olympic bronze medal, and you're like, "Oh, I really taught her grandma to suck eggs." Anyway, feel free to use that expression, but, I don't wanna do that tonight. I don't wanna teach you how, your grandma's to suck eggs, but, I do want to talk a little bit about why pitches matter, right? And then we're gonna shape a personal pitch, or we're gonna try a couple different ways that we can sort of tackle how we pitch and present ourselves. And then we'll also, and this is the part you're really gonna love, because we're such a small group, we're really gonna have some chance to practice our delivery. Yeah. Yeah. Already nervous. Inika, me too. Me too. So you're definitely not alone. But yes, it's I don't mean to make anyone nervous, but I think we can all step in and practice, and then when we go beyond, we'll all have that level up. Here's what we're gonna do, introduction, and I'm gonna start. I will go first with the introductions. I will talk about why the pitch matters. We'll I'll teach you something I call the 3C framework. It's a framework I came up with for presenting ourselves or pitching, and then we'll do breakouts. I don't know, Jillian, we can think about how much we need one, or we just vibe it out
I think
together.
just roll. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll do a hot seat and Q&As, but I think all those I kinda get the feeling that part 4 and 5 will just roll all it that'll be like the tail end, the back half of it, right? Where we'll just kind of chat and hear from everybody and give each other feedback, that kind of thing. So, from 1 to 10, I think I've kinda got a measure of the group, but how confident do you feel when introducing yourselves, professionally? And I think, if we get some middling numbers, I feel like some of that might come from doing a lot of stuff, having a few different, work streams. Yeah, some sevens. Seven's like the perfect number because it's not so low that I might call you out and explain it, or not so high that I might ask you to pitch yourself right away. So really nailed it, Jillian and Debbie, to be basically uncall onable by with your 7 answer. So yes, I still have stuff to learn. Okay, in a coffee chat setting, I'm an 8, but as soon as it's a discovery call, I freeze. Okay, great. That's good context, Inika. Haley, I'm a level 8 confident that when I introduce myself, someone will understand at least one thing I do, but more like a 2 when trying to help people understand I do a lot of things. Ah, aha. Great. Yeah, it's easier kind of when we have those facets. It's like, oh, I'm specifically, like when I'm introducing myself to, another parent at my kid's school, I'm like, you only need to know one thing about me, and that's who's my kid. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't have to tell them. It's in fact not really warranted to tell them anything else. But then, yeah, out in the wild world, there's more to explore. Okay, introduction, I'm gonna introduce myself, even though, Jillian did a very lovely job, but this is kind of a bit of a
I didn't
pitch
give
for
your
me,
bio.
although
I didn't do your
yeah,
bio. You
yeah,
didn't do any of that. Yeah.
I noticed, but technically you did introduce me. So here we go. So, my name is Ryan Miller, and so I've worked in my past as an actor and a comedian, and I've also spent a lot of time working in content and communications. Now what I do is I combine those 2 worlds, the acting and performing and the communications and content, and I help people, um, present themselves and tell their personal story more effectively so they can show up as more authentic people and be more effective in their professional life. Yeah, something like that. I will also tell you I wrote a book, and the book is called The Confident Present. Oh yeah, I've written 4 books, actually, but this is the one that's maybe most relevant. 2 of them are children's books that I wrote under a pen name, and the first book I wrote is about improv, and the second book, this is about it's being the confident presenter, and you'll see how that is relevant to what we're doing this evening, or perhaps how it sakes in it aligns with my personal brand, you know what I mean? All right. So anyway, oh yeah, here, this is I think it's a really good book, but you don't need to take my word for it because there's a lot of people who really like it. Oh, Debbie, so ordering that book, I'm gonna pause just for a moment here to heart that comment. Okay, great.
Yeah.
It is a really good book. True story. Um, Now what we're gonna do, I want to get into that was the introduction part. It's over. Now we're gonna get into why your pitch matters. And we can kind of open this up. I'm happy if people want to push back or have their own thoughts or ideas and or like, hey Ryan, you missed this. But this is what I as I was thinking about it put together. I was like, there are three things that the pitch does. The first is it creates understanding. And this is, I think, Haley, you'll resonate with this. When you're in that two zone where people aren't understanding what it is that you do, um, this is where it falls apart at this, right? Because people don't understand what it is that you do. But when you're in that eight zone, people understand what you do. And then it also, and this is, for everybody, it's a good pitch builds trust because, it's not, and this is where we'll talk about the pitch word, but it's not necessarily like you're trying to sell them something, but you're like,
Mm.
this is who I am. This is what I do. This is why it matters. This is why I care. All of those things. You build trust. And then also, and this is, I think, super important, but it comes in at number three because it's best when the other two are already locked in and it sparks curiosity, right? Because then the person's like, oh, I would like to know more. I should order that guy's book. God, that was a really good introduction. You know what I mean? It's like I want to hear more about what that person has to say, and that can be personally, that can be professionally, whatever. But it's um, I use this example sometimes. I can't remember where I heard it, but like this is kind of a tangent, but a good conversationalist includes a lot of doorknobs. Are you familiar with that? It's like you don't
Mm.
need I love that metaphor well, first of all, it's very succinct, but it's like you don't need to like tell a lot of stories about stuff that happened to you. You can just be like, yeah, I took my daughter to gymnastics and then we went and had ice cream and then or whatever. And people might not ask any questions, or they might be like, "Oh, what's your favorite ice cream?" You know what I mean? Or like, "Oh, what kind of gymnastics?" Or you know what I mean? You leave these opportunities that doorknobs that people may open or may not, and we want to do that also in our pitch. Now, of course, when and actually in the that workshop where Jillian and I met, we really connected because I don't want to say she called me out, but because that's not what she did, but she had a lot of input and in the workshop that, and we had only met, well, we met briefly online, but this was in real life. But it was all I was like, yeah, really good. All of the input that she gave, all the questions that she had were really spot on. And one of them was like, Ryan, we keep talking about a pitch, but it's kind of just an introduction. I was like, yes, that's a very good
Mhm.
point. And on this slide here is kind of sort of like teased apart a little bit the difference. An intro is like, hi, I'm Jane, I'm a designer. Hi, I'm Ryan, I'm a writer and a speaking coach. Whereas a pitch more along the lines of I'm Jane, I help brands bring their values to life visually, especially during moments of change. Right. So there's more of this idea of intentionality. There's more doorknobs in a sense, and it's more about like not just like the skill I have, but it's like where I add value, what I bring to the world, right?
Can I ask a quick question about that, Ryan?
Heck
Quick,
yes.
of course. Sorry if yeah. So I feel a little bit guilty now. Like, did I?
It's the
Yeah. Anyway,
opposite. The opposite.
I just remember I was like, so anyway, we're not going to talk about that. We're here now. Okay.
Later.
Um. So yeah. So my question is this: um, how do you think about like what's your strategy, or how do you think about when you're like introducing yourself and how many door handles to include versus when you're
Mm,
pitching yourself. It's like we all know when there's like people or places where it's like the shortest intro, like waiting in line to get your kid in the rain, something like this,
mm,
like short. And then there are opportunities where like we are pitching ourselves. But what about the 80% that's in between? How do you think about that? Like yeah, when you're just introducing yourself, but sometimes you don't know if that person could be a prospect or something like this,
Mm.
but you know, so how do you mentally think about that?
Jillian, that's such a good question. I'm gonna tell you all a secret, which is that I realized that I'm gonna teach you these 3 frameworks, and I have all of this, stuff I'm gonna teach you, but it's not that none of it matters. It's that the real value is not just in polishing up your pitch, it's in the work that you have to do to know where your value is and what it is you wanna say. Yeah, or what and then it's not that you should leave here with, like, a 30-second, a 15-second, and a 10-second, you know, plotted pitch necessarily. It's more that, we need to kind of take all of this cool stuff that we do, all this work that we've done, that we wanna do, all of our humanness and everything, and just do people don't wanna, like, reach in and try and figure out, like, "Hey, who is this? Like, what are they doing? Why should I care?" We need to meet them halfway, or we need to at least have the skills to meet them halfway, if you know what I mean? So it's like
Mhm.
so I think that's the real value where it's like, you don't wanna necessarily just be like, "Oh, this person just mentioned they have to use their, HR training budget or whatever, so I'm just gonna, hey, I'm Ryan, you know what I do is I help companies,
Mhm.
no, no, no," it's more like, "Oh, that's interesting, that actually aligns." You know what? I was recently doing some work for a Fortune 500 company, and or it felt that feels a little braggy, but you know what I mean, where you're like you're able to kind of
Connecting.
connect and make those not yeah, maybe conversational maneuvers to lay out a little bit of your value, or like where you see the connection, or why you want to grab a coffee with that person, and that comes from doing the work. Excuse me.
Mhm.
I think that comes from us doing the work this evening, where we sort of have that all of those things on our on like our bat belt, you know what I mean? Where we could just like, oh, this situation calls for like I need to talk about this, or I need to talk about this in this way, or we have them to hand. So I think that's the real value. Does that answer your question, or does that avoid answering your question?
No, yeah, I get it.
Cool. Okay. Then yeah, so what's the next slide? Yeah, oh yeah, pitch, intro, or story. Yeah, this is I
I
mean, this
can't
is
see your slides, by the way. You know that, right?
no. Ah, it says I'm screen sharing. How can you not see my slides?
I can see it.
You can?
Yeah. Oh, pitch, insurance, story.
Yeah.
Alright, perfect. As long as you can, then go for it. Don't mind me then.
Okay. Jillian can't show me
Carry on.
slides, so she's
Yeah.
flying
Oh,
blind. Okay. Uh,
Yes.
uh, sorry, Jillian, could you see them before? Did they disappear or
yeah, but go ahead. It's fine. Continue.
okay. So yeah, basically this just to, sort of reiterate what we were just talking about. It's about how defining how you're seen, or at least having the, understanding how you're seen a little better so that you can define it for others as the circumstances demand. And this 3C framework, yeah, I think we'll all agree when we get to the end that it's very clever to use 3 words that start with the same letter to make this framework. So the first is clarity, right? We need to know what we're saying. So that's and that's like the big chunk. We're going to do all of this, but the clarity is the big part. And then the composure is about embodying the message, and we'll do a pretty fun exercise, I think, around that. And if anyone has any questions that feel like these are ill-defined, let me know, although we will talk about them more. And then the last is about the connection. And again, this is also really important because you know, it's not pitching or introducing ourselves is not about talking at anyone, right? It is about talking with people. So those are the keys, and we're going to get right into clarity. And that is where you will get introduced as I didn't do this intentionally, but I realize now that we're meeting our new forms for our introductions, which are these pitch paths. And this is something that Jillian, we did in that pitch workshop oh
Mhm.
so long ago at Venue. Um, and they're giving us 3 options. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not that you need to kind of nail these, but these are useful um, guardrails for us to use as we sort of develop these concepts and think about how we can introduce ourselves more effectively. So there's the 3 W's, which is the who, what, and the why. And then there's the my journey, which is a past, present, and future. And by the way, I notice, I think that some people are taking notes, and that is great. I love taking notes. I'm a note taker myself. I'm also very happy and very able to share a PDF of these slides, or you can email me and all that stuff. I don't want to discourage you again from taking notes, but I don't want you to be like, oh shit, I missed something. Um, if that happens. Yeah. Okay. And then the third one is problem solving, and this is a bit more can be a bit more salesy, um, in the sense that it is about like here's a problem and here's a solution. Yeah, here's a problem that I solve. Yeah, so we'll get more in depth here, and what we're going to do is first with the 3 W's. So it's the who, what, and the why. So it's a fact oriented, but it adds in this layer of the why, and so that gives us an opportunity to share our purpose. I have used myself as an example in all of these to sort of demonstrate how they work. So I'd say, hi, I'm Brian Millar, a Canadian-born, Amsterdam-based coach, writer, and speaker trainer. That's my who. What do? I help people put themselves into the world more effectively. And why do I do that? Because when we embody our potential, we can live our lives more fully, or we can make a bigger difference for other people, or we can actualize on that potential, right? That any of those kind of things can be they're different kind of facets of the why. Yeah. So that is the 3 W's. And yes, you will get a chance to choose one of these and work on these very shortly. The my journey is a past, present, future. I like this one because it kind of tells a mini story. You know, not all stories are chronological, but this has that sort of natural, inherent chronological flow. And it also, by showing us the future, it gives us a chance to kind of lay out our vision. You know, it's not just about what I do here and now, it's about where I want things to go. So me, you know, in my past, I was an improv performer in Vancouver, Canada, and I've also worked as an actor and writer in communications. Now today I lead a company called Dashwell Training, and I help leaders and creatives speak and present themselves more effectively. And I'm building a movement around what I call the improv advantage, which is a methodology I've developed that helps people thrive in uncertainty. Yeah. So that's a lot to say, you know, it like just drop casually and, you know, while I'm in line at Starbucks. But you get the idea of how I have this framework in my head now of the past, present, and future that I could use. It's like, oh, well, let's not talk about what I'm doing now, what I want to be doing, or like what I'm building toward, right? So that happens when we use that my journey one. And then the problem solving is this hook, problem, and then solution. Yeah. And then the hook, you know, we all know what a hook is. It draws in your audience, or kind of makes something land with them. And then this works because it offers understanding. It's like, I know what your problem is and I can help you solve it. My hook, for example, you know, ever feel like you're smart and capable, but your message isn't landing? And the thing is that disconnect is actually holding you back personally and professionally. But with Dashwell training, I help leaders and creatives master the skills of confident presence and real world storytelling so they can speak with impact and ease. Doesn't that sound nice? All right, let's arrange a call. Great. So those are the 3. I've just introduced myself 4 times now. I'm feeling a little self-conscious about that, but I was like, I have to kind of try this also for myself. Um, but does anyone have we're going to get a chance to work on this in just a second, but does anyone have any questions or comments or any thoughts, pushback, or like, Ryan, you missed the most obvious pitch path of all, or whatever?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's time-wise. I mean, ideally, how long does a pitch is a good pitch? Because you have all these elements. I'm like, oh my gosh, and
Mm. Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do that in a yeah, in a good time frame. But
Yeah, I think it's fair. So maybe the best example of this, of like using these kind of in the wild would be in a job interview,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like just think about that, where you're kind of given like, okay, so why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? And you're like, oh yeah, well, I worked in IT for 5 years, and then like, I just recently moved. It's like, dude, you're all over the place. You know what I mean? It's like, tell us the thing. And this is, gives us that thing. And for me, it's more like this is the, um, it's like when we've done this work, when we do this work that we're doing now, it gives us the groundwork that when
Yeah.
we meet someone, it's like, oh, hook. Oh yeah, like maybe it's just like, tell a story instead of using it, just to go back to the hook for a second. Um, like I could use, instead of saying like, ever feel like you're smart and capable, but your message isn't landing. If I'm talking to someone who I think might need some coaching, or it just kind of, it reminds me, I'm like, you know what?
Just grab elements, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like, you ever see someone like, or, we're at a conference and it's like, that's, no offense, but that speaker was not great, and actually, I feel bad for that person, because actually having a stage at this conference is so valuable. And it's really hard for me because I'm a public speaking coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
so I'm not going hook problem solution, but I'm tying what I
Okay.
have
Yeah.
to offer. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Clear.
Um,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So we're going to choose our path. And this is what we're going to do. And I think it's probably easiest to do it in, like on our own a little bit. So, and we'll just take 5 minutes and choose one of the three pitches, and I'll put them up here. The three W's, the my journey, or the problem solving, and just take some time to kind of scribble it on a fresh Word doc, or out in the, on a pad for the note takers. And then we'll just pop them in the chat. Yeah, if we're comfortable with that, because this is the groundwork that gives us the space to launch into composure, and then into connection. Yeah, great. So I know everyone is already working on it. So good. I will give you 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have just 1 minute left. And we have a new entrant to the room, Sean, I believe.
Sean.
Yeah, I just let them in. I don't see them, but
Super.
yeah. Okay. So I will just focus on what a great job Inika's done by putting hers in the chat. I won't talk about anybody else, just Inika.
She's a teacher's pet. Look at that.
She nailed the assignment. What can I say?
Oh, good. But is this, which one is this? I mean, like I wrote it, but I don't know which one it falls into.
So I'm looking at it as well, and I was wondering, and I think it's a who, what, why,
Okay.
right? Your who, yeah, and then I think the why is a little bit, before, I love podcasts, so I'm a podcast manager. And maybe the second part of the why is about making an impact and building lives that lead space for life. Um, that's which is good, because it's about, the why for them. But, we could think about, you could turn up a little bit of in different circumstances, the why you do it
Mhm.
versus the why for other people, right?
Well, why would I need the why for myself in a pitch?
Because, like,
With the interest.
it's a great question. I may very well want to know, like, why you care about what it is you do,
Okay. Yeah. And I
right?
can answer that
So,
easily. I just didn't realize it falls into a pitch.
yeah, well, I think, and this is where I think we have this issue of like an introduction versus a pitch versus like my personal story, because the pitch is really like, hire me, right? Like,
Mhm.
essentially,
Yeah.
or like,
Okay.
give me money, right? Like that's a pitch. Um, and I think this is more of a, hi, Sean. Um, you're,
Hey, Sean.
as far as I'm concerned, right on time. The Yeah, so I think what I want us to think about again is this like idea of the authenticity about understanding what it is we do and where it brings value, and then it's almost like the pre-pitch or setting us up so that our pitch is expected, and this is where there's like a separate element we talk about, the call to action, right? I'm going to go through. Debbie wrote a small but delightful looking book, as did Haley. Going out as a bicultural kid, I've always had a strong sense of learning. As a communication specialist. Oh yeah, great personal style coach. Oh, very cool. In the very near future, yeah. So past, present, future. Create authentic on-stage looks for ambitious multicultural speech. Yeah, very cool. Very
That's why I
cool.
need your book.
Yeah, it's it's succinct, but it's great, and it's like I get to know so much about you through that is great. And we'll kind of like reflect on our pitches as we go, but I'm also just really curious about like who the hell are these people? So I'm Haley, lifelong creative storyteller and author. Art center brands and leaders tell their stories in their terms. Story development, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, great. So it's all about storytelling, all that. That is great. Yeah. Instincts at the table as a creative consultant and developmental editor. Oh, fantastic. Haley. Yes, super cool. Sean, you'll see we've just I'm teaching a three-part the 3C framework for pitching and introducing ourselves. And the first is clarity. So it's just about being clear about what it is we do and where our value is. And there's three paths for that: the who, what, and the why, or kind of our past, present, and future. And problem solving, the hook, problem, and solution. And there's some very good examples in the chat. If you want to kind of see what people have done, let's share. We did that. And now we're going to get to composure. So this is for those of us, like when we've got this, the raw material, it's then about getting it out there in a way that is consistent with your message. Yeah. And here's the idea. And this is, I'm all about confidence. That's why I wrote a book called The Confident Presenter. But we think that that's like, okay, when we're confident, that leads us to composure, right? We can be composed. We can have that sort of elegance on stage, command the room, etc. But actually, it goes the other way around. When we are composed, when we bring that to the table, we can lead us to confidence. Yeah. So, another way of thinking about this is like confidence isn't a personality trait. It's a skill that we can build upon. Yeah. We can build. So when we're looking at how to bring our confident presence, I've, broken it down into like what is uncomposed, to use the language of composure versus composed, and uncomposed is, hunched shoulders, these are just examples, but like also tells of when someone is not really, well composed. They might be, like speed talking or mumbling and, not making eye contact, or they're speaking too loud. And, like it can be that kind of thing, maybe shifting in their seats and, or over explaining. It's like, yeah, we kind of got the point, but Ryan keeps talking, blah, 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 blah. Versus composed, right? And this, it's also, you have your own style. Maybe you're like high energy, or maybe you're more like, a low energy or reserved, but still you have this open posture, a steady pace. You can change it up and back. You can, speak loudly or speak softly at times, but it's an appropriate volume, calm and alert, clear and concise message. We've already been working on that. And that is this composure that puts the other person at ease. They're like, if you've ever had, I don't know, like thinking back into high school, like a substitute teacher come in and you're like, oh, I think we're going to make this person cry, right? Or what, or you come in and you're like, oh, we can't mess around today. This person means business. It's like, they don't necessarily need to say anything. It's that body language. It's that aura, that composure that they bring into the room. So what we're going to do is we're going to try our pitches. You can all stay on mute. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually embody this, because I've told you exactly what it's like, but I want us to actually feel the pitch difference. So yeah, cameras are all on, keep the microphone off. And I want us to embody that uncomposed body language. So that is hunch your shoulders up, kind of like look down, a little bit. Make sure you can see your pitch, and I actually want you to say it out loud if you can, if it won't distract your kids or it'll maybe get them to stop fighting for a minute. That'd be great. Um, yeah, you can kind of like shift, or if you want to kind of chew your nails or anything like that. But like all this kind of like lack of composure, this uncomposed or decomposed body language. And I'm going to count us in from 5, and you're all going to say your pitch out loud with this awkward as hell body language and vocal qualities. Okay. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. I'm gonna stop you there, and I'm gonna say that was not very confidence inspiring. That was awkward as hell. Which was the point. That was the point. So now, but we're not just gonna flip the page to the more composed body language. We're gonna take a second just to shake that out, get that out of your body. That was not helpful, but hopefully it is helpful for you to really feel that, to feel what it's like to embody that awkward feeling that can happen. And it also happens, and it's very natural when we're not sure of what we're going to say, right? That's why we've been also working on what we're going to say. So now we're going to feel the pitch difference. Camera on, microphone off. We're going to embody the composed body language. So that's, shoulders back. Look into the, I think we're all drawn to our, the images, but like if you can look into the camera, I want you to speak loudly, but not too loudly. Maybe let's all take a deep breath beforehand. This will help settle us, especially after that awkwardness. So deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. I think counting us in from 5 took way too long, so I'm only going to count us in from 3, and you're just going to deliver that pitch, that introduction, yeah, like you mean it, like it's true to you, because you do, and it is. 3, 2, 1, and go. All right. I don't know what y'all said, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful to look at, and hopefully you felt it. We could shake that out, but hopefully some of that will still stay with us. And what I'd like you to do is, if people want to come off mute, that's fine. I'm conscious of the time, so if you want to just maybe pop a word or two in the chat about the. I mean, obviously we all prefer the second version, not the first version, but how it felt. Was it useful to kind of embody and feel those differences? Yeah, it definitely felt better. Good. Yeah, great energy. I could see it through all the cameras. So it was really, um, yeah, it's like even without hearing, it's actually, I only did it so with the microphone off so we wouldn't all be, get distracted by each other. But it's amazing that actually I didn't, I mean, you could have been reading a soup recipe, you know what I mean? But I could still feel I was like, oh, what are they saying? Yeah, going from Debbie Downer to Awesome Annette. Okay. Is Annette your middle name? Yeah. No? Oh, no. I'm gonna imagine it is, from now on. Okay. Cool, great. Great job, Awesome Annette, and the rest of the gang. Now we're gonna get to connection, and this is the third piece, and this is where I think it's important for us to have this frame, which is that it's a two-way street, and it's like we're not just out there, like, spraying out introductions, right? We talked about this before, at other people. It's actually about us, um yeah, like sort of opening conversations or being in conversation with someone. It's about relational moments rather than, like a real pitch. If you want to, like, if you're selling to a client, that's different than what we're talking about. But this is about opening the door to that sale. Yeah. So two paths to connection, and this is just we're gonna give you I'm gonna give you these two like nuggets of ideas, and then we're gonna all come off mute and we can kind of hear, and maybe we'll get a couple people in the hot seat if they're up for it. We can kind of help shape and sharpen up some pitches. The first is the subtext, which is this is the idea of the like what it has to do with the composure, but how are we presenting ourselves? What is the emotional meaning behind what we're saying? What we're sharing. And then the second is about the call to action. This is about legitimately kind of like, what is the next step? Yeah. And like I said, the subtext is the meaning behind the words. It comes from, this is something that actors do. It's like, if, what am I saying when what am I really saying when I come into the apartment on stage and I say, what a day I had, am I happy? Am I sad? It's all about that emotional meaning, which is a little different from composure, but it is also what people can read into and feel. Yeah. It's a message that we're sending. If I'm if I'm applying for a job in the C-suite, as a technical mind, it's not just about being confident. I also want to portray that hyper competence, right? Versus if I'm, say, a fashion stylist who wants to outfit multicultural speakers on the stage, I might want to, come up like I've got a lot of character and flair, and I'm like a little bit quirky, but also don't I look great? And I can help. It's just Debbie, I'm just kind of making that up, but it's like, what is it that resonates for you that is attached to the composure and attached to the clarity of your message. And then the CTA is the literal idea of like, how do we take this to the next stage? And as I wrote here, keep the dialogue going or not, because it could also be like, well, it was great to meet you. Look, if you ever need someone who can reach out to me, find me on LinkedIn. It was great talking to you. You know what I mean? And maybe it wasn't great talking to them, or maybe it was, and you're just like, I'm going to make my exit. So that's what I mean when I'm saying like, keep the dialogue going or not. And then what is it that you want to do? Is it like, do you want that sale? Do you want that next step? Or is it like, sorry, I've been talking about me. What is it? Tell me more about what you do, you know? And that's like, turn this back into a conversation, right? It's about all of those things. Now, we have 10 minutes left, and we're not going to get into breakouts because we don't need to do that. I'm going to stop sharing my slides and see what do I have left. The book. This is me, and this is the hot seat, and then the Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to see if anyone has like a particular question. And by the way, Jillian, I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I can go for an extra like 5 minutes or whatever. But I don't want to keep people here for longer than we promised them.
Well, amazing if you're able to, and anybody if they'd like to as well, and if they have to jump off, they do, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, cool. Sean, you have your hand up, so
Yes. Are you hearing me, Ryan? Yes, you
yes.
can?
Sorry, I was working really hard at getting my thumbs up in frame, but yes, I'm here.
Is.
Yep. Oh, and then you froze. All I heard, Sean, was my question is, and then you
All right.
froze.
She'll be back.
Sean,
She'll
we'll come
she'll be
we'll come
back.
back to you. Yeah. Um, does anyone else or like want to give it a shot? Or or anyone?
Great opportunity.
Yeah.
Who's it gonna be?
Six great minds here. Yeah. It's
You only
also
got one shot. You got
yeah. Yeah. Mom spaghetti, y'all. It's time.
Okay, I will ask, how do I take my 3 W's into a whole? Oh, Sean's gone?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I heard.
Connection issue sometimes, and where she's at.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay, how do I because when I'm conversational, I can talk about podcasts a mile a minute. But as soon as it becomes a pitch, I freeze. And like Jillian is a perfect example for that, because when we connected, it was a coffee chat, and I was talking, and then she said, "Tell me about your services," and I went, "It's that kind of conversation." Fortunately, she already liked me at that point, so we were able to muddle through. But like, I freeze as soon as it's discovery call. I cannot find the words. But it's not a lack of confidence in my, maybe it is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I freeze.
So, Annika, that's great. This great context, a great example. I think one thing and this is just me. I think you can take a breath. Like, if you know what I mean, like right now, you're like, and it was like, and I was freaking out, and she was doing this stuff, and it's like, and yeah, Sean, we'll come back to you. Thank you for reconnecting. But yeah,
For you to go to
we love
Sean
you.
because she was.
No, that's no. Let's finish this. So I think there's like, and for you, because and I don't know you, but I get the sense that like you might bring that energy fairly regularly, and it's very lovable. But you might want to be able to you should be in charge of the distribution of that energy. right? And so in that kind of moment, it's like, oh, it's not like, oh my God, it's that kind of conversation. Yeah. It's like, oh,
Mm.
okay. No, I wasn't I have a one sheet of my services I could share with you. Like that kind of thing. Or you could say, well, my standard rate is, it's like $150 an hour for um if we're, for whatever, for a call or whatever it is, but it's just about having that, like, I think giving yourself permission. You said, I'm very confident in what I do. It's just in terms of navigating that and not turmoil, but it's like I think it's internal turmoil caused by changes in the conversational landscape. And
Mm.
you're doing great with that. Like, you don't need to have that turmoil or like, yeah, just you want to be in control. And I know Jillian is dying to say something, so I just want to go over to her and then I'll go over to Sean.
I think this is a perfect opportunity to give, to feed in, I guess, some of her words back. Here, this is what I mean.
Yeah.
When you were asking a few moments ago about why, like why your why is relevant, for me, this is one answer. So if you find yourself, my suggestion and being I got to participate in this conversation with you a couple of years ago, right? So
Yeah.
if you find yourself in that conversation where you think it's a coffee chat and then suddenly, God forbid, they ask about what you do and how you work, this could a kind of a potential bridge for you to get yourself there, is to talk about why you love podcasting.
Mm. Okay.
Right? So why you love podcasting or why you love working with this type of person, because they're going to feel that. That's very natural for you to talk about that. It'll help you to get comfortable and it's a good way to ease into the conversation. And then the bow on top is like my favorite quote that I always talk about is Maya Angelou, right? The reality is most of the time people are not listening to us. They're just are not to each other or just not listening in general. But people remember how they feel, like how we make them feel. And so that like energy transfer and the what Ryan was talking about is everything. Because yeah, even if you say something like, "Oh, yeah," and then people forget. It's like everybody's scatterbrain has short-term memory, all these things. So really being able to talk about something that you love is a great entree into the next part of the conversation. That's my thinking. I'm gonna be quiet
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
No. Danica, did you want to?
No, no, that makes sense. Like taking a breath, like you said, Ryan, and then just
Yeah.
carrying on the conversation.
Yeah. And I think, and that this, and maybe this is like kind of the takeaway also for everyone is like applying this idea of clarity to other aspects of the business. Like, like, oh, we're asking about what it is that I do. And here I've narrowed it down to these are the three themes of my services. And this is roughly the ballpark. And here's one or two success stories. Not that I'm going to like spit a verbal case study, but I'm going to be like, hey, do you know the One Handshake podcast? This was, and I've been working with them from the ground up and, I'm really happy with, and they're really happy with the results, so that's kind of a really good example of what it is that I do. Do you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
you have these. Okay, Sean,
I appreciate that.
over to you. Yeah, thanks, Inika.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I have two questions, Ryan. The first one is, um, like in elevator pitches, right? Is it okay to? So I've seen one way of presenting the problem, then the results. In terms of the problem, you help your customers with. This is pitch to customers directly, and then the results you bring them. Or you could start with the results you bring them, then the problems that they face. So, is there a yes or no, or right or wrong when it comes to, especially if you have like just a minute, a couple of minutes, just to tell them what you do and what you bring to the table? Is there a right or wrong way? Is it problem then result, result then problem, or it doesn't matter? So that's question number one. Um, and question number two is, how do you like if you're on a panel,
Mhm.
how do you uh in your speech? So I have an upcoming panel discussion that I have in a couple weeks. And normally panels I've gotten used to being asked questions and answering them, right? But this panel, I just have 7 minutes to talk about the topic. what are some of the things that you would share that you would tell me to keep in mind when preparing my 7-minute talk in this panel discussion? So everybody has their 7 minutes.
Yeah.
But what would be your suggestions to, especially when it comes to panel? When you speak by yourself, it's different because you have the time, you can do what you want. People have no idea. But when you have such a tight window and you want to be impactful, what are some of the things that I need to remember? So those are my 2 questions.
Great. And Sean, just one more question. You in this panel, it'll be like, okay, over to Sean. Sean, your 7 minutes starts now, and then you talk, right? Like that, and then it'll go to the next person, and like that's how it's structured, right?
Yes, that's exactly how so I am the last one to speak in the panel. So
Yeah.
3 people will be for me. And then after me, have the Q&A. Yeah.
Okay, great. So couple thoughts. The first to answer your question about the elevator pitch. There's both when it comes to storytelling, which is a little bit what we're talking about. There is both no formula and tons of formulas and only one formula, which is kind of beginning, middle, and end. Things were like this, then this happened, and now they're like this. Yeah, that's the way things were, or like let's say the problem, what was the action that was taken, and what is the result. Um, and I think it's fine to play with that. And there are lots of there's the hero's journey, and there are other different kind of storytelling structures. But I would say, especially if it's something that you're sort of working with in a new way, I would say just keep it simple, keep the structure simple, and do the put your energy into making it more resonant with you, more real, add more detail, add more about why you care, rather than being like, I'm going to Tarantino this, and I'm going to put the end at the beginning and the middle in the side, and like it's like no, we don't need that. Just this is what it was, this is the action that we took, and this was the result. Shall we have another conversation, right? Then the panel, I mean, I'll be interested to hear because I'm sure we have lots of panel speakers here. I think the one thing I would say is like coming, so I think you both want to prepare what it is that you're going to say, obviously. And but I would say what would be especially adept of you would be to leave room because you're coming at the end. You could be like, "Oh, I know I've got 7 minutes and I want to tell you a story about," and I don't really know what it is you do, but like when I was an environmental consultant just at a grad school. But before I do that, I want to touch on something another one said, or like I've noticed these 3 speakers have all talked about something that I think is a really important theme, which is that climate change and what, you know what I mean? But rather than just coming in and being like you were just a robot frozen while they were speaking and they unfreeze you and you say your 7-minute thing. I think it comes across because it is indeed much more present in the room in the event that you all are sharing, right? And I think that probably, Jillian, you brought up Maya Angelou, but I think this is, when you're like the unfrozen robot, it is more about um it doesn't feel as special. It's not as connected about what is happening in the room and what you've heard. It's just like, here's a thing. Whereas if you're able to kind of be like, oh yeah, just to, reiterate what my colleague was saying, um, people understand that it's actually what is happening in real time, and they're more likely to like not just pay attention, but to be engaged and listen to what you're saying.
And it demonstrates who we are. So when you do that, it shows people who we are, which sometimes matters more than what we say. As people observe our behavior and our posture, and that we were paying attention and that we're edifying other people. And sometimes all of those things carry more weight than the thing that we're going to talk about. Because people will determine right then if they like you and if they feel like you're credible.
And the last thing I wanted to say, and this is not just for Sean, this is for everyone, and especially Jillian. And I want to say, I realize we've gone a few minutes over time. Again, I don't have a hard out, but I will kind of steer us toward the conclusion, and I'll hand it back to Jillian. But if someone has like a last question, or like, oh, do you really? No, everyone's kind of shaking. Well, Debbie's shaking her head, and she speaks for the whole group. So that means we're all no, I'm just kidding, David. But I think it is the right time to hand it back. So I just want to say I've had a wonderful time. It's really appreciate you having me here, Jillian, and spending just a brief hour, 65 minutes with you all. It's been wonderful. So thank you, and Jillian, back to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks so much for this. And it is a lot to compress into a short amount of time because, yeah, is you have to lay the foundation and all the things. So it's a lot to try to cover. But hopefully today, everybody here has gotten some nuggets, and certainly having the frameworks and being able to talk, and we can all get back together and kind of work on this with each other and support each other. We'll have the recording and whatnot, and yeah, so we can continue to work on this and support each other as we're crafting our pitches. But the links and everything are going to be coming in your email shortly after.
Oh,
There's a
great.
link there. Yep. So you've got this one as well. Yeah. So those will be coming in your email. Be looking for your kind of input, feedback, ideas, the links that we talked about, etc. That will be coming. So there'll be 2 emails coming. But in any case, yeah, let's wrap it up. And Ryan, thank you very much for your time and your generosity and sharing all of this with us. And it's a pleasure to see all of your smiling faces. Yes. All right. That's a wrap on workshop number 2, people. Over and out. Thanks, Ryan.